My goodness, I am absolutely honoured to be joined here on the 9th of May 2023 here in Millstreet Museum by the gentleman supreme and musician par excellence, Jerry McSweeney. And Jerry, of course, you are a native of Millstreet.
That's right, originally from Killarney Road. Yes, correct. I grew up in Millstreet and played in the Millstreet Pipe Band, learned the accordion, and then later learned the fiddle.
Right. What year were you born, Jerry?
1956.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So I'm just 5 years older than you.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But right, so music has become very much part of your life, but apparently you didn't learn music from the primary school level. It was later.
Well, I did learn the piano when I was young, but I was taught piano by a nun called Sister Benignus.
I remember, she was my first teacher.
But she sacked me. Because basically, I've always more or less learned music by ear. And when I was learning the piano with Sister Benignus, she knew I could read the treble, but I couldn't read the bass. So I used to copy her and listen and copy her, so she wasn't very happy with that. And then obviously I took up the tin whistle, took up the button accordion, joined the pipe band. I also, of all things, bought a trumpet some years ago and played trumpet as well. Used to play in some of the local show bands here when I was a teenager. Donny and the Caparese I used to play with, and a few others. And the Sheehans from Killarney, we used to play a bit of music together.
Tremendous.
And then my uncle, Father Jackie Butler.
Indeed. In fact, I was speaking to a priest from the Salesian order who celebrated his 40 years in the priesthood. Father Martin McCormack, and he spoke very highly of Father Jackie. Right.
So my uncle, Father Jackie Butler, procured a fiddle, which he said, "Do you want to have this fiddle?" And I said, "I'll give it a go." And that was when I was about 16 or 17 years old. And then I started learning the fiddle, and I really self-taught myself. But then I got to know Jerry Cavan as well, and I'd left Millstreet when I was 17, 18 to work in the civil service in Dublin. But
what department were you working in?
Dreaded income tax, revenue commissioners. Yeah,
very good,
very good. And I used to come home quite a bit, and as I was beginning to learn music and got to know some people in Dublin, I also had a lot more links here when I came home with Jerry Kavanagh, and we used to play together and learn tunes off him as well. So the cassette that we originally did was done in 1985, and there's probably about 35, 40 tunes on there altogether.
Tremendous. Yeah. And in some of these wonderful tunes, you actually play with Jerry.
Yeah, some of the tunes I actually play along with him,
My goodness.
Yeah.
And of course, Jerry was not only a master musician, but he also was a master tailor.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's where I used to go up to his house, and we used to sit in his tailoring room.
All right.
Yeah, and that's where we would play together.
In the famous Pound Hill.
In the Pound Hill. Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
That's correct.
My goodness. Yeah. And also you would have associated with Bill Bryan, who was actually a member of the Millstreet Rovers.
Yeah. I had got to know Bill actually probably before I knew Jerry. And I used to visit Bill when I was a bit younger, probably when I was just playing the button accordion, when I was maybe 13, 14. And Bill was a character, to say the least, and lived quite a frugal life at the time, actually. It was kind of a one-room cottage, to be honest, on Pound Hill as well, Church Street.
Did you remember his mum, Nancy?
No,
I remember Nancy.
Right, no.
My goodness.
But obviously Bill and Jerry used to play many, many years ago together in the Millstreet Rovers. But then they went through a period of not talking to each other for a while.
Well, they came together for 1980 for the official opening of Millstreet Museum, where we are now actually speaking. Then, Jerry, did you leave Ireland then?
Yeah, so when I was working in the civil service in Dublin, I used to do quite a bit of voluntary work, mainly with the Multiple Sclerosis Society, and I became interested in caring and nursing. So I went and did my nurse training in London. And then we lived in London until about 1989, and then we moved to Manchester. And then I got to know some people there playing music as well. And luckily, some of those have learned some of our Sliabh Luachra tunes from me as well. Yeah.
Wow. So what part of United Kingdom?
We live in Manchester.
Oh, in Manchester itself.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And the So your work basically is in the whole world of the medical world, as a in a trained nurse.
Yeah. Yes, I've only just retired actually. So I retired in October of just last year, 22, and I've just been getting used to it. So I'm 6 months into my retirement now. Yeah.
Well, and you're looking so healthy. It's an entirely new life for you, and you'll have a lot more time for music.
Absolutely, and that's obviously, and that's been the good thing as well. But there's so many other things to do in life as well, you know, with family and being outdoors and keeping fit.
Of course.
And my wife is originally from Germany. She's from Munich, so we travel to Munich, and obviously we come here to Ireland. And we've got 2 daughters. One actually lives in Munich now, and the other has moved from Manchester to Sheffield with her partner. Yeah.
So, as such, are you bilingual in the sense of speaking German, speaking English, and Irish, trilingual?
Yeah. Well, I'm not too bad at German. I get by. Yeah. And the interesting thing was, well, the funny thing is, I did French going to school, and then I married a German, so I had to learn a new language, obviously. But obviously, lots of German people speak good English as well.
Tremendous altogether.
But I started relearning my Irish as well. I go to an Irish class every week.
Yes. And I think there's a great love of Irish music in Germany.
Oh, there is. Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's a huge interest, and I mean, Germans. Lots of German people have come here to Ireland to visit, and lots to live in the west of Ireland as well. Yes. And they do love the Irish music.
And I can recall, Jerry, your link with Pomrit Le Vicomte.
Yeah. So after I had left Millstreet, and I actually travelled on the twinning ceremony to Pomrit. With the pipe band.
I recall it.
And we had a wonderful time. Yeah. And I remember being here as well when, I think it was 1985 when they played here.
That is right.
I was here for that as well. Yeah. And that was after I'd obviously left Ireland. I was in London at that time. Yeah.
And you know, even being part of a band for a period, it's a wonderfully enriching experience, and it continues with you, doesn't it? And the friendships you would have made, like you would still be very much linked to Millstreet Pipe Band.
Yes, I mean I keep observing them on Facebook and things, and seeing where they're up to through their web pages and that, and it's very interesting to see Paul Driscoll's return to the band, because obviously he was in the band.
And his son Tig.
And his son Tig. Wow, yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, because when I joined the band originally, I was lots of the band were all grown men, teachers, and I joined the band when I was about 12 or 13. So I was the young small fella at the front of the band behind Con Tarrant for a few years.
Right.
But the band
special memory.
My goodness. And but obviously the band has changed and evolved over the years as well.
But it's amazing. How do you view, say, the music scene in Ireland at the moment now, Jerry?
I mean, whenever I've normally come home about 2 or 3 times a year, and it's just wonderful to see all the young people who play music still and love the music basically, and it's just fun. I've been to the Flacchiol in Sligo probably 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it was there, and absolutely fantastic. You know, I mean, there's nothing like this in England. There's no tradition like it. I mean, they have their own folk music, which is it's nice, but it's nothing like our music and our culture.
There's a special spirit, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And it's rather unusual that we're speaking on the first night of the Eurovision 2023, which is taking place in Liverpool, and tonight Ireland is taking part. But of course, 30 years ago, exactly next Monday, the 15th of May, 1993, was the Millstreet Eurovision. And what memories do you have of that?
Well, not a lot, because by that time we'd moved to Manchester, but I was keeping abreast of everything. Social media at the time wasn't like it is now, so it was a lot through word of mouth information from my family mainly.
But you must have felt so proud of the fact that, my goodness, the Eurovision is happening in my hometown of Millstreet.
Absolutely, and I'll always remember the great story about they had to extend the railway.
That is right.
The platforms.
That's right. It became Ireland's second largest platform.
That's right, because when I was working in Dublin and I used to come home for the weekends, if you
move up along the train,
the back of the train, move up the train if you're coming to Millstreet.
Always, I know it. I
but it was fantastic for the town, obviously.
Tremendous,
the Eurovision.
And is your wonderful tradition of music being continued into your family?
Well, no, unfortunately, neither of my daughters play. Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah.
But maybe the next generation may.
Yeah, who knows? They may.
Exactly,
They may indeed.
exactly, this is it.
Yeah.
And coming back to Millstreet, what changes do you notice about Millstreet, Jerry?
I suppose a lot of the changes are. I was talking to Mary, my sister-in-law, earlier. When I was growing up, when you go downtown, down the West End, you'd pass Enright's Chemist, Ellie Murphy's, Jimmy Cronin's, O'Leary's Butchers, the Barbers, and all those houses are just gone now. And obviously, I went to St Patrick's College, which was Garrett Hickey School, and they're all unfortunately passed now as well. Yeah. So they're all private houses now. So it's
and of course, difference. Across the road was the cinema.
Absolutely, yes, yeah.
Special memories there.
Oh, many times we've been in the cinema. Yeah.
That was so special.
Yeah,
and to think that the cinema was actually built adjacent to a cemetery.
That's right. Well, Johnny's beside it, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly.
And I mean, some of my favourite films at the time used to be the Christopher Lee films, the Dracula films.
Right.
And it was a bit strange being in these films, watching these vampires and the graveyards just next door.
Exactly. And sometimes if there was very bad weather in the film, and when you came out, particularly from a Sunday matinee, and the sun was shining, you thought, how is this?
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
You know? And the other thing I couldn't understand was that, let's say now there might be airplanes fighting in war, and they'd be shot down, and then I wondered how could they come alive for the night performance. I couldn't understand.
That's correct.
As a child, so it just showed. But there were special memories.
Another memory of the cinema is when Father Canon Brown was here. He had a special chair on the balcony, a big. It wasn't a rocket chair; it was a big, high-backed wooden chair. He used to come in and sit on that chair.
Oh, wow, wow. And of course, if you got upstairs, that was an extra dimension to get, because it was almost like being elevated if one could afford to go upstairs.
That's correct. Yeah. And of course, we used to have times when there was plays on in there as well.
Oh yeah, and what I found about that, Jerry, was the acoustics were so good.
Yeah.
The sound was just perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think I remember one of the plays. I think was called Wigs on the Green.
Yeah.
And I always remember Liam Coffey being on it, and I can't remember.
Yes, Liam was in it.
Yeah.
And Tygo Driscoll was in another one. I remember that. And there was quite a number of local people who were really, really good. Yeah. And then if missionaries called, they'd show a film to promote the missions, and that would be absolutely chock-a-block. Right. But the money then went to the missions. That was. So it is wonderful. But Jerry, what I must say is that enjoy your trip home, and long may you continue to come right back here to Millstreet. And of course, as I say, you have so many wonderful memories here, and you're keeping so wonderfully fit. Well, clearly, right through your career, you were a very active person right through your career, and of course. You'd mentioned multiple sclerosis there. I had been secretary of the Cork Northwest branch of MS Ireland, and definitely there have been great advances, even though it's still a very challenging situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because in my nursing career, I worked for quite a while in a rehab unit, and we had quite a few patients with multiple sclerosis, and it's a horrible disease. Horrible disease.
It's certainly very challenging. Yeah. Well, Jerry, thank you so much. You are presenting Millstreet Museum and the people of Millstreet with a treasury of the most amazing music, a lot of which is most likely quite original. And it was recorded live in the home of Jerry Kavanagh.
In the East Tailoring area.
Yes, in East Tailoring, yes. Who had such an amazing tradition himself, and had such a love of music. And having this, it's wonderful. And it's also great because we'll be able to share it on a world basis, because there are lots of people listen to our program over the years. And again, thank you very much indeed, Jerry McSweeney. And of course, we have wonderful memories of your dear mum and dad.
Yeah.
They were the nicest people you could ever imagine.
Yeah.
And of course, the memories you have of all the family here growing up are special.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Sean. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Jerry. And there it is, as I look here at two, not just one disc, 2 discs, and beautifully annotated there. And we're now going to listen to one of those selections. In fact, I think we'll go for a polka.
Okay.